Good evening. Good evening from New York. I am Selwyn Collins of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special thank you. CWS is about having conversations with people about their journey and how they're using their gifts and talents to help others. So I'm always looking for people who have extraordinary stories or who are doing extraordinary things or doing things extraordinarily well. It is my belief that we are never more connected than when we share our stories. And it's not just so that we can glorify our successes, but to share our challenges, how often we got up when we fell. Because imagine, and I usually challenge my guests to imagine someone listening to you and being inspired just by recognizing a similar challenge in their lives and one day becoming the next head of state or someone who discovers a vaccine that saves millions of lives or stops a genocide, God forbid. And so I am always encouraging people to pursue their ideas, to pursue their dreams, because I believe that when we are successful, each of our successes represent a beacon of light. A light to not to only illuminate us, but to illuminate everyone around us. To remind others that they too can shine. To remind others that they too have a switch. So you see, our success doesn't mean that we should stand up on a pedestal and look down upon others, but to show others that if we can, so can they. I'll take a short break, and when I return, I'll introduce you to our guest tonight, our friend Kirk Cambridge Del Pesche. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly.
Oh,
And you know what? I gotta start over. Let me start over. I blame this all on Kirk. I am going to start over. The mic was off, so I'm going to start over.
Okay, go for it.
Makeup artist, former director of makeup and hair for Fashion Week Trinidad and Tobago, magazine contributor for O, the Oprah magazine, and O at Home, beauty editor for Make and Style, Tell magazine and Profiles 98 magazine, makeup and wig supervisor, Broadway, operas, tours, etc. Former MAC Cosmetics manager and artist, 1999 to 2008. CPA, member of the board of directors on the Emily Humanitarian Foundation, member of IATSE, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. Born on the Caribbean island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, now living between Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Caribbean, or wheresoever his next job takes him. An eclectic mix of Black, East Indian, Carib, and Scottish, and having been exposed from childhood to a mix of cultures, foods, people, and appreciation of hard work and sacrifice, always giving 110% to what he does, has indeed made for a unique, funny, outgoing, and very charismatic individual. So we'll get started. We'll get started, Kirk. I mean, come on. As I read just now, you were born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
I was born in the beautiful archipelago of islands known as St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
What does being Caribbean and Vincentian mean to you?
Being Vincentian means that I am from a culture that is sea, sun, and people. Mm-hmm. And we are a people who are funny and we love to laugh. And I mean, at least that is what the family I grew up in taught me. And Vincentians are very hardworking and we endure. As to being from the Caribbean, being from the Caribbean is not just, he's from an island and have plenty sun and coconut water. No, being from the Caribbean means that my culture and the history that I was born into is engraved in who I am. So Coskel is the Caribbean fashion. Caribbean fashion is known as Coskel, and it is the ability to take bits and pieces of fabric and texture and material and put it together, and where everyone else says it doesn't work, as a Caribbean person, when you walk into a room, it creates a stir. And that, to me, is what it truly means to be from the Caribbean.
Can you give us a glimpse into your life as a 9-year-old, a 16-year-old, and who you became at 21?
At 9, I was rambunctious and opinionated, and I used a lot of big words. Because my grandfather said, if you don't know a word, you write it down, you learn what it means, and you use it in 3 sentences and come back and come back to me.
Right.
At 16, I was getting ready to graduate high school, and I was, again, opinionated, and I made sure that I had a foundation to everything I said. If someone told me that the sky is blue, I went and I researched it and realized the sky really wasn't blue. That's what the optical nerve sees. Mm-hmm. And I would come back and tell you that. And I was full of life, and I saw everything as a possibility. Nothing was off limits for me. And anyone who knows me at that age knew that. And at 21, I knew who I was and what I wanted, and I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew where I would be.
Mm-hmm. What kind of student was Kirk at 16?
I always questioned. I questioned everything. My mother told me that you always question anything that is told to you. So I was a questioning 16-year-old.
How does being mixed with Black, East Indian, Caribbean, Scottish inform how you relate to other races?
Because I grew up in this multicultural facet that was my family. This compilation that made my family, where I had cousins who were white looking with gray eyes, and I had cousins that were Indian, and I had cousins who were Black, and cousins with broad faces. And so to me, I never related to being Black or one or the other. I just thought I was a person. Mm-hmm. And growing up, my friends were everything: poor, rich, white, Black, Indian, whomever. And so for me, it's always been easy. I don't see people as this, okay, this person's Black. No, there's more to you. Mm-hmm. There's not just a Black person sitting in front of me. There's something more. There's a heritage, there's a culture behind you. And I find that here in the States, when people look at you, they say, oh, you're Black. But internationally, they look at you and they say, there's more to you. And I've always adhered to that philosophy.
If you were to eavesdrop your parents telling a stranger about you, what do you think either of them would say? Starting with Mom.
My mom would say he's a wonderful boy. He's headstrong. He will cuss you out in a minute, and anything you tell me that he cuss you and tell you, I gotta believe you. He's really a good soul. My father would say I don't really know him that well. I think he's an educated boy and he's smart.
If you were not a makeup artist or CPA or any of the things that you do right now, what would be your career, Kirk?
I would probably donate my life to working with children in the Caribbean. Unfortunate children in the Caribbean.
Is there a reason why children?
My mother gave a great part of her life to children. Mm-hmm. Children who were born to poor families, and she helped them to get adopted into families internationally so they can have a better opportunity at life and to have the kind of life that she gave us, that our family was able to afford us, me and my sisters. And for me, I saw a lot of, as beautiful as St. Vincent was, I didn't realize how many poor people live there. And so we'd go to these villages. I remember one time we went to Oya, which is the Carib settlement, and to meet with this woman who had a 2-year-old daughter, and she wanted a child. She couldn't afford to keep the child, so she wanted the child to be adopted. And in her poverty, she lived in a hut, and in her poverty, she still had breadfruit and fruit and cassava and bami and all this other stuff in a box for my mother to say thank you. And I remember my mother just breaking down and crying and said, even in this woman's poverty, she's still giving. This is why I do what I do. And that makes me who I am.
So the giving is very important. It's just not the gift necessarily.
It has nothing to do with the gift.
Yes.
The value of the gift is unimportant. The fact that in your circumstances, as dire as they are, as they seem to the rest of the world, they seem to you, you still have the ability to want to give something, whatever it is. That, to me, is important.
Kirk, this is interesting. An avid equestrian who rides both English and Western saddle. When did this love for riding begin, and who first introduced you to horses?
My grandfather introduced me to a mule named Betsy.
A mule. Okay.
On our estate in Mesopotamia Valley. And I fell. And he said, get up and go back on the mule. And I did. And that kind of, and through the years, I had opportunities to ride, and I kept riding. And then when I came to the States, I really went for it. So I was dating someone, and they pushed me into it. And so I trained, and I love it. And I took up dressage in 2009.
There's not synchronization or something between the rider?
It is but you literally can stop the horse with shifting your body in your seat. So not with the reins, just with your legs and your butt. You literally sit and you like lean to the left, and the horse will move to the left. If you lean to the right, if you stop.
How long do you have to train with a particular horse to have that kind of, synergy?
The horses are literally trained for years, so they know the movement and the shifts. So in your first couple of lessons, the horse you kind of get used to the horse, and the horse gets used to you, and over time you become a synchronized pair.
How long have you been a makeup artist, and how did you get your start in the industry?
I have been a makeup artist probably all my life because I love painting. And I would look at my mother do her makeup in the mornings, and she would put on like 10 eyeshadows and 6 blushes and a ton of lip product and lots of mascara. And I would just look at her and I'm like, oh my God, it's like Picasso painting. And it would turn out to be so beautiful. And then when I started modeling in the Caribbean, you would go to a fashion show and the makeup artist would ignore you because there were other models who were known, and you would be last, so they'll splash whatever they want on your face. So Richard Young, who was he was the head of the agency I was in, and he was also into makeup, and I said, could you give me a lesson? And
Richard was into makeup?
And he gave me a makeup lesson, and I built on that lesson. And then when I came to the States, I got a job with MAC Cosmetics.
Don't glaze over this part of your history. Richard taught you
to walk, to do makeup.
Wow.
He taught me to walk like a superstar and to be fearless.
So, what do you love most about doing makeup?
I love that it has the ability to transform someone, not only on the outside, but also on the inside. Because sometimes you have a customer who doesn't feel that they're beautiful for whatever reason.
What is that based on? Is it you hitting the mic or something? All right.
It's just my breath.
Yep. That's what it is. Go ahead, Kirk.
And the woman, she's divorced. The husband's no longer with her. And she feels, not beautiful. And you sit with her and you do her makeup, and she looks in the mirror and she gets a glimpse and she says, oh my God, I'm so beautiful. And then you see the light return to her eyes again, and you're just like, I like what I do.
What is being Caribbean? Or let me leave that for later. You have a quote, learning from different people's perspective. What does that imply to you?
To me, what that means is every person that you meet, every person from a different culture, every person from a different country, there is something about the way they think and the way they perceive life that makes you learn. Because when you look at it and you say, you know what, I think that's a great idea. I may know to do things one way. And then because you're from Guyana, you might cook callaloo different to me. So I might like the way you do callaloo. So therefore, I may change the way I do my callaloo a little bit different to to incorporate what you taught me. And I think that's so important, because that truly is what the Caribbean is, because we're such a mix up of everything that we've taken bits and pieces of every other country around the world that inhabited us at one point and created what we've become.
How would you describe your signature look? And what is it about your style that sets you apart from other makeup artists?
I don't really, do I have a signature look? I probably do. I mean, most people say, oh yeah, Kirk did that. I don't really see it that way. I just do my job. I do what I'm being paid for, and I'm being paid to make someone beautiful and to make them feel comfortable before a shoot, before an interview, before whatever it is. So my job is to make them as calm as possible, so that when they go out, they are for me, being a makeup artist is not just doing makeup. I have to be a psychiatrist, and I have to be a best friend, and and it's all about being very social and being personable. And
give us an example of a situation like that.
I have a very high profile client, and so I go in. I'd never met her before. She learned of me from another client, and I had to be background checked and everything. And I went in, I smiled, I said good afternoon, and she said good afternoon, and she said, well, let's start. And I started, and she seemed a little nervous, and I said, girl, there's nothing to worry about. And she says, where are you from? I said, I'm from the Caribbean. And we started talking about the Caribbean and the beaches, and just started talking. She said, oh, she'd gone for vacation a couple of times. And I said, oh, you didn't go to the real Caribbean, because she went to the British Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands. So I say, oh, they're the real Caribbean. You need to go down south where you could get real food. And we started laughing, and it became a really joyous atmosphere. And at the end of it, she said, thank you so much. I was so nervous. Now the nerves are gone. And so, that really for me is what it means to do what I do.
You have been a model. But you're a makeup artist. Do photographers ask you to get in front of the lens?
A few of them have over the years. I think now that I've gotten old and I put on a little bit more weight, I'm not as well. I lie. I like taking a good picture every now and then. I lie, but once in a while, like Don Thompson always, and Kieran Riley. Forever, no matter what I'm doing, Kieran Riley, who's a Trinidadian photographer, one of the best, he will always shoot me, and I would Kieran, don't take no pictures of me, and he'd be like, okay, and Don does the same thing, and a lot of other photographers. There's this guy Peter Chin, he does the same. He's Jamaican.
Why do you think that is so?
I don't know.
You never asked them?
No, I didn't.
So how did your experience as a model in the Caribbean prepare you for the runway in the States?
You know what it is? Richard Young has a different way of a whole philosophy behind the way he teaches you. So you are taught to be a Caribbean model, not just a model. Caribbean men walk with a certain swag. Caribbean women walk with a certain stooshness about them. And we as a Caribbean people, we're naturally sexy without even trying. And when we walk down, when you're dressed in something fabulous and you walk down, your chest gets higher, and you have a tone on your face, And he said, use that to your advantage. Don't act like, he always says this thing, don't act like your back teeth knuckle. And I mean, Richard is a comedian, and he would say, you're not a horse.
Try to bring them.
He says, you're not a horse. So you need to walk. It's a structure, and you keep your Caribbeanness in there. And so when I came to the States, when I was in the Caribbean, I started modeling for him. Other agents from other Caribbean islands would ask for me. And I was just because I wasn't built like everybody else. I was tall and lanky, and everybody else was muscular, and I wasn't. But they would always ask for me whenever there was a show. And so when I moved to the States and I went to my first casting with Boss Management, I remember the guy said to me, he said, you're not that good looking anyway.
You're not what?
that good looking anyway. And I said, okay. And I left. And then I ended up in a couple of shows, and I was like, well, I guess I showed him.
You have traveled throughout the Caribbean and around the world. Where's your favorite place for relaxation and for fashion shopping?
There's nothing like shopping in the Caribbean. The Caribbean designers bring something different. They give you a lot of them, each Caribbean designer, the thousands of them that are there, the hundreds that are established, they each capture the Caribbean in their own way. For instance, my good friend Sonia Noel. Sonia brings a rawness to Caribbean fashion, something that is unseen, it is unbridled, it is wild. And that has to do with where she was raised in Bartica. And so she really does capture the true essence of Bartica in her pieces. Then you have someone like Robert Young, who's Richard Young's brother. He's of the cloth, and I have a couple of his pieces. And he is all about bringing a completely different perspective to his fashion. So when you see it, you know it's a Robert Young piece. And I have several pieces that I bought from him over the years. And whenever I wear them, people are like, where do you get that? I was like, in the Caribbean. And you have, what's his name again? There's a guy, Chernel Olivier from Trinidad and Tobago, and his pieces are very structured. And so, when you go through, and then there's so many designers. There's a woman from Antigua who was born in St. Vincent. Oh my God, what's her name? I love her to death. She's bald, older woman, and she does a lot of avant-garde pieces. I can't remember her name right now. Stunning older woman, and she walks in her own shows. Fabulous. So there's so many Caribbean designers who do amazing things, and you can see their culture seeping through. And when you look at it and you look at an international piece, you know that it's not a replica of that. It is truly Caribbean.
Richard Young was on my show several weeks ago, and you know how passionate he is about Caribbean being Caribbean and representing Caribbean. But what are your thoughts on? I mean, you just described these various designers and your love for shopping in the Caribbean. What are your thoughts about Caribbean maintaining that Caribbean flavor uniqueness?
It's very important for us as Caribbean people to maintain our identity, because it is the thing that makes us stand out to the rest of the world. And a lot of times we get lost in, we lose our Caribbeanness trying to adapt to the North American culture or the British culture or the whatever. But when we, it's like a lot of young people aren't interested in the history anymore. And it is so important for us as adult West Indians, to share our culture with the young, and say, this is where we come from, and there was wars, and there was this, and there was that. And this is what came out of it. We, as a people, out of all the chaos and the slavery and everything else that happened, look at what came out. We have a beautiful group of islands that run north to west, and each of us are different, but there's still one or two things that make us the same. You know what I mean? Yes. Food is a thing that binds us as a Caribbean people. No matter which island you're from, Spanish, French, Dutch, English speaking, food is the thing that binds us, and laughter is the other thing. Because no matter what culture you're from, or what country you're from, or what language you speak, as a Caribbean people, our jokes are always the same.
Who were the biggest inspirations for your career, and how did it unfold?
My mother was my biggest my biggest inspiration, because there was nothing she couldn't do. She did everything. She baked, she sewed, she worked in the courthouse, she was a mother, she ran my family's estate with my grandfather, she did everything. And I just sat back and I looked and I was just like, wow, what an amazing woman. And Here in the States, there's a Jamaican makeup artist that worked for Mac Cosmetics. Her name was Nadine Luke. And she looks like Eartha Kitt. And Eartha Kitt, I've loved her my entire life.
You did makeup for Eartha Kitt,
She
right?
became a client.
All right.
And when I saw Nadine and my friend Yvonne were really good friends. Yvonne was the woman that hired me to work for Mac. And she and Nadine Luke were best friends. And when I saw Nadine the first time, I was like, oh my God, what a beautiful woman. She was the exact replica of Eartha Kitt, but an amazing makeup artist. And she gave me my first solo opportunity to design makeup for B. Michael Couture. And B. Michael and I became very good friends after that.
Wow. What is your, if there is one, what is your philosophy about makeup?
I don't have a philosophy. I think makeup just is what it is. You find what works for you. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that the same thing doesn't work for everyone. So you find what works for you and you build on it over time. As you get more comfortable, you build, you add things to it, and whatever makes you feel your best in that moment.
Give us a I don't want to use the word bad, but give us an experience that made you think, oh my God, what have I done? Or what have I gotten myself into? I guess, let me preface this by saying, are all your situations always good situations?
In the beginning, not all of them. Mm-hmm. I remember working for someone who I looked up to as a child.
Yes.
And I would see them on television. I said, oh my God, I would love to work for this person one day. And an opportunity arose. And I went in, and the person was very nice to me. Mm-hmm. But the person was a control freak. And the person would say yes to everything that's done and then go behind the wall and be like, oh, I hate it. Get rid of it. Rah, 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 rah. And when I realized that, it broke my heart. It broke my heart because I really looked up to this person. Mm-hmm. And they didn't hate my work. They hated the person that was working with me, who was the designer. And they were designing the hair. I was designing the makeup. And they fired the person who brought me into the project and said, we can't deal with her, but we love your work, so we'll keep you. And I said, no, out of precedent, I cannot work for you. And I walked away. And it really, to this day, it still hurts me.
How important is that kind of loyalty to you?
It's very important because that is how I was raised. Mm-hmm. I was raised that if an opportunity is brought to you by someone, and in the midst of that, of the maturation of that relationship in this situation, they want to get rid of that person that brought you in, you cannot stay. Because if you do, your relationship with that person will never be the same.
Who are some people who've inspired you along the way?
Richard Young is a huge inspiration in my life. Huge. He was my first major, because I saw this man as a mammoth among men. Like, he approached fashion very differently. He looked at modeling very differently. He looked at the Caribbean very differently than anyone I had ever known in my life. My grandfather, Claude Cambridge, was huge. Him and my grandmother, Mary, were huge in the business side of me, mm-hmm. in terms of how I conduct business, mm-hmm. and how I see employees and how I see management, because of the way they ran their estate. And so as a young child, they had me count money and would say, pour out 2 ounces of something or weigh 3 grams of something. And take it to the lady, mm-hmm. and take the money and speak to speak to the person. And so without me even knowing it, they were really preparing me for a life of business. My father and I don't really have a great relationship, but because of his hunger for knowledge and education, I think that's where I got that side of me from, and that I will be forever grateful for.
If there's a particular kind of music that you listen to when you're creating, when you're in your creative space, What type of music would that be?
I listen to all types of music from all over the world, but there is nothing like a Marshall Montano.
Marshall. Let's take a quick break, but before we go on the break, I'm going to leave you with this question. It's hypothetical. You have an opportunity to go to your favorite place of relaxation with your favorite music, a favorite book or type of book, and a favorite drink. Where will this place be? What will the music be, the book, and the drink? Let's take a break, Kirk.
It was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week where I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.
We are back with Kirk, Cambridge Del Pesche. Kirk, you remember the question?
Yes. So I would be on the island of St. Lucia, on Sandy Beach. I will have some rum and coconut water, cold, chilled, frozen. I will
Not
have
coconut water and rum, but rum and coconut water.
rum and coconut water.
Okay.
Rum fuss.
Yeah, yes, I get it.
Rum, coconut water. I recently came across this amazing book by this brilliant Caribbean-born author, and it's called The Earth's Hearts.
Oh, you didn't do that. You didn't.
I love this book. Amazing book.
Thanks for the plug, Kirk.
And my music I would have would be a mixture of soca, calypso, kaiso, lipso, everything Caribbean, because I love the diversity of Caribbean music.
Kirk, in any conversation with you, what stands out is not only your sense of humor, but also your deep love and passion for what you do. When did this intimacy with your craft begin?
But when I decided to leave MAC Cosmetics and pursue a solo career in 2008, I realized that I didn't do it because it was the money. I did it because I loved it, and I did it because, for me, it became very natural, and it was just a natural transition. I remember going home to the Caribbean and saying something to my grandmother, and she looked at me and she said, "That's not who you are." She said, "If I were you, I would take some time and get to know yourself." And I remember coming back from that trip and really honing in on my Caribbeanness.
Let me go to the chat room for a second. Sonia, love the color and you love Ade. What explanation of the Caribbean culture? Great explanation of the Caribbean culture. Michelle Morgan just got in. No C. Greetings, everyone. Karen, hey, Kirk, congrats. Heidi, hi, Kirk. I'm glued to the interview. It's awesome. So pleased to know that you have not forgotten your Vincentian roots and you are keeping the Caribbean alive. Congratulations. You look fabulous. Michelle Morgan, much, much Vincy love. What are some myths about makeup artists, Kirk?
That everybody's successful. I think that's the biggest one. They think that when you're a makeup artist, you're successful. I know a lot of makeup artists when I used to do a lot of magazine work. And then it transitioned to theater. Then it went to opera. Then it went to ballet. Then it went to movies and music videos and private clients. And so I've learned to take the things that I've learned in the theatrical world and put them into my everyday life in makeup. And I know when the economy crashed, a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of people weren't employed by magazines anymore. And I was grateful that because of my Caribbean-ness to adapt, I was able to move from one type of makeup job to several others. And when one was a little lopsided, I could go to another one. And because I had the type of reputation that I had, I always get work by referral. I've never applied for a job.
Kirk, talking about that, you toured with Fela.
I did.
And also I've worked from major networks, ABS, CNN, CBS, Fox, NBC, TV shows like Oprah, The View, and several celebrities like Kerry Washington, Destiny's Child, Michelle Williams, the late Arthur Kitt, Smokey Robinson, Pastor Paula White, Orlando Jones. Wow. How, you just answered that question, how you got these high profile jobs. But how do you, with all of that, how do you manage to stay grounded?
Because my clients will tell you one thing about me. I don't socialize outside our business agreements.
Okay.
So, like Smokey and his wife, I'll sit and have breakfast with them. We'll talk about my life in the Caribbean. We'll talk about growing up. But we don't, I wouldn't say, oh, I want to go to this event that you're going to, or, I don't believe in that. I believe when I finish my job, I get my check, I go back to my hotel room, and I hang out with my friends or my brother, depending on where I'm at. I'm not a big socializer with my clients. If they're having a birthday party and I'm invited, I'll attend, but I don't mix business and pleasure very well.
What is the biggest challenge with theater makeup?
There is, for me,
Yes.
not to be cocky, but there is no challenge for me. I mean, I don't know, because I literally have now been able to merge my editorial makeup into theater. And it is a beautiful thing to see, because I think we started doing it in Philadelphia about 5 or 6 years ago. I worked with Cookie Jordan, who also is one of someone that influences me a great deal. She's an amazing hair designer. She designed the hair and makeup on Broadway for a lot of shows. She worked on Fela. She brought me into Fela. And she and I have worked together for a good 8 or 9 years now. And they all, it's like theater makeup used to be heavy and caked on, but then the age of HD came in. And so they started filming it for viewing later, for putting it online and so on. And I started doing my thing, and she's just like, I don't think it's gonna work. And then when they shot it in HD, they were like, makeup is flawless. She came to me, she was very excited. She's like, oh my God, whatever you're using, we have to start using it. And so now every show that we do, we bring that into the show.
Somebody asked me to ask you tonight, what are some makeup products you use?
My latest love has been Bare Minerals. I like the fact that they're all mineral based, and you can find the right colors and textures for you.
What is the name again?
Bare Minerals. MAC has always been my go-to, because it's a company I was with for a long time. I was with them for 8 years.
What's so special about MAC?
MAC was literally, it's all about pigment and wear, how long it wears, how well it wears. Women of color, I found, were able to find their color more directly in that brand, and the colors tend to stand out more. For me, it's all about pigmentation, and MAC, I find, for photo shoots and for televisions, wears and really stands the test of time.
People, fashion, and style are like the winds, ever changing, ever evolving, constantly reinventing itself. Your quote. What does that say to you?
It says that everything changes. And I came to that very thought when I was doing Mimi LeDuc with Eartha Kitt in 2008. fall. And this is when I first started working for her. And she did a show called Mimi LeDuc. And there was a line in the show where she says, "Everything changes, even me." And every night I would hear it. And then one night, and she and I were talking about it one night at dinner. And I said, "Ike, what does that say to you?" And she says, "Everything changes in your life from the time you're born until you die. It's in a constant state of change. The change might be little, it might be big, but it's always change." And I was just like, and I looked at her, I was like, "It's kind of like the winds." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "The winds are always changing and always evolving, and it gets bigger or smaller or whatever. It goes north, it goes south, it goes west, it goes east." And she just looked at me and she smiled. She's like, "Oh, my little island boy."
How do you define your own personal style?
I love clothes. I have a love affair with shoes.
I don't have a shoe cam, Kirk. You can always present the show one.
This is Selwyn's first shoe cam, and I gave it to him, and he's going to have a shoe cam. So anybody else coming after me, you need to show your shoes. And if they're not fierce, everybody gonna know.
All
Okay.
right.
Good.
Well said.
So now, I like well-made clothes, and I like things that stand out, and whether it's a cut or a stitch or things must fit, and they must fit well. That's always been my thing. I never liked baggy pants. My pants were always fitted but not tight. My shirts were always enough. It was enough fabric. It wasn't too little fabric. So it just, and as you get older, your sense of fashion changes,
Kirk, you are very confident, very sure of yourself. You speak well. You know who you are, and I like that. We are both from the Caribbean. We understand the various ethos of the ethos of the various countries in the Caribbean and so on. What was it like for you growing up as a young man, but a young or a gay Caribbean man? What was that like for you?
I was friends with everybody. So I was friends with the gangsters, the drug dealers, the rich white people, the poor people. I was friends with everyone. And I think it was because of my family. My family was very inclusive of everyone. Mm-hmm. So for me, when everyone else was getting, I didn't have a lot of gay friends. I didn't know other gay people. It was just me. So I just knew me. And everyone was accepting of me. But then I would hear how they would talk about someone, say, "Oh, that batty boy, that bullet man, and this." But no one ever said that to me. I was just another person. And so as I got older and I started traveling throughout the Caribbean, people started saying, I'd meet other gay people, and they would say, they would have their stories about how they were beaten up and they were thrown. One guy was stabbed up by people in his village, and one guy was stoned, and people were beaten by their entire families. And they were like, everyone's talking in this room, and I'm just sitting there, and they're like, "Well, Kirk, now we get to you." And I was just like, "What?" And they're like, "Well, your story." I said, "Well, this is my story. I had a fabulous life." Mm-hmm. And they're like, "But you weren't beaten up, you weren't threatened, I never had that."
But Kirk, let's face it. You're not a small guy. You're not a tiny guy. You're not a Pee-wee Horman. So who would dare charge you?
But you know what it is that some of these men, some of these people that I knew were bigger than I was. Mm-hmm. And so for them to be attacked and to be stabbed and to be ridiculed, and to me broke my heart, because I didn't know that.
So why do you think you were spared?
That's not the Caribbean that I know. Mm. And even now as an adult, when I go to Caribbean islands and I visit people, the people who are supposedly homophobic are the people that have conversations with me, and we talk, and my gay friends who they chastise and know of, they would look at me at the end of my conversation with these other people and say, "I cannot believe that person just spoke to you." I am just me. I don't pretend to be anything else. I don't hide anything of my personality or who I am. Being gay for me, is it's just a small facet of what makes Kirk Kirk. And if someone's going to judge me based on that and say, oh, I don't like him because he's gay, then you're missing out on an amazing person who would maybe able to give you some advice, maybe able to, whatever it is. So when you judge someone based on their economic status, the color of their skin, the sexual orientation, the texture of their hair, you're not looking at the core of who that person is. And people tend to miss out.
Have you always known your sexuality, or was it a later realization?
No, I've always known exactly who I was. Anyone who knows me from childhood, Michelle Ryan will tell you she knows well. Anyone who's known me from my childhood will tell you that I've always been who I am. I've always known. I've never put it as, I've never hid it. I've just always been me.
This question I'm about to ask you, I'm hoping, because I think in life that love is what is most important, and we should all be inclusive. I'm hoping that one day this type of question should not be asked, but this is the reality of the time in which we live. How were you always comfortable around your family and friends? Were you always so?
Always. There's certain members of my family who don't care for me because of that, because of the way they think, because of, the Caribbean disposition of, oh, you can't be friends with this person. And that's fine. A long time ago, I made decisions that if you don't like me for one thing, you can't like me for nothing. And I good.
So, Kirk, where did this confidence, this strength come from? Your mother?
My mother was extremely confident, and she said to me, anything you want in this life, you go after it. Don't let nobody hold you back. No family, no brother, no mother, no man, no woman, nobody. If you want something, she said, don't make anyone make you feel inferior. She said, the only person who can make you feel unimportant is yourself. And if you never, she said, I used to have this thing when I was little, and say, oh, he good looking, eh? And I said, I know. And people would be like, oh God, you fully yourself, eh? No. My grandmother used to say to me, she said, Kirk, if you don't tell yourself you're worth it, if you don't tell yourself you're good looking, nobody ever will. And it's true.
What do you hope that your attitude, your disposition, what do you hope is the message to other young gay and lesbian people in the Caribbean who may not have had the kind of support or felt empowered as you were growing up, but might still be hiding, might still be struggling with fears and so on? What do you hope? What is the message you hope that they will get from you?
I believe that my attitude is not necessarily gay, straight. It's across the board, because you have straight people who feel inferior. You have bisexual people, whoever, older people, younger people, who feel I'm not good enough. You are good enough. You are as good as you give. And if you feel in your heart that you deserve it, then you do. And if you feel that you don't, then you don't. And that is the reality. I've come from a very supportive family on both sides of the fence. My brother, Raymond, whom I love so much and he's watching, is my only brother. And my brother, I remember when I told my brother I was gay, I was 22. And I called him. He called me. I had just gotten over chickenpox, whom my sister Gwen, my older sister, was nursing me back to health. And she's truly one of my best friends. And he called and he said, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, I have something to tell you. And he said, what? I said, when you come home, I'll tell you. He was in the army at the time. He was stationed he was in the Philippines at that point. And we hang up the phone. And he called back. He said, what do you want to tell me? I'm not waiting until I come home. Tell me now. And I said, I'm gay. And there was this awkward moment of silence. And then he broke it. He said, so why are you quiet? And I said, because I'm waiting for you to air your disappointment. He said, there's not one thing that you will ever do or ever have done that I'll be disappointed. He said, you are my baby brother, and no matter what, I will always love you. I have no words for that.
Neither do I.
And
Wow.
my brother will be walking down the street, and my brother will hold my hand. He hugged me up. He is my biggest cheerleader.
Let me go to the chat room for a second. Ade said, the crazy actors, LOL. Michelle Morgan, I would love for you to launch your line of makeup and fashion. Do you ever think about such a venture? Let's call it simply KCD. Yeah. And Karen G said, Kirk, I had the pleasure of meeting you via Sonia. Your charm and warmth come out instantly. Would you say a couple of things that women of color should do for their daily makeup and skincare to shine?
I say find a good scrub, a good moisturizer. A night regimen is always good, like an oil, an essential oil. And I would say go to Kiehl's. Kiehl's is I love Kiehl's to death. I've been using them forever, and they've never disappointed me. As to makeup, I would say find a brand that you feel comfortable with. I mean, again, Bare Minerals, MAC Cosmetics, or Makeup Forever, the three that I really go between now. If you are not a makeup wearer, I would say go with Bare Minerals because it's lightweight, it's easy to wear, it corrects any, it's just easy, it just looks like you're wearing nothing. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Ade said, ask him his zodiac sign.
I'm a Taurus, and Ade and we're both born in the year of the dragon, 10 years apart, and we're born on the same day.
Wow. Shelley said, "Your great personality. What you see is what you get. Great interview. I like." Karen G said, "A sexual preference in life is your beeswax. People need to get real and understand theirs. Confidence is so sexy, so little for them." Who are some Caribbean designers you admire?
I love Robert Young of the Cloth.
Who's this?
Robert Young of the Cloth.
Robert Young. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
There is a woman, her name is Heather Jones, who does hand-painted silks. Oh my God, amazing. There's this woman from Antigua. She's bald, very fashionable. She's Vincentian born, living in Antigua. She lived in Europe for many years. And I cannot remember her name. But if I see her today, I will run to her because I think she's the most dynamic Caribbean woman I've ever met. It is a Sonia Noel on crack.
Really?
Is the best. She is on hyperdrive.
Sonia Noel on crack.
Yes,
that's a lot.
And I would love for Sonia to meet her because I think they're two sides of the same coin.
Wow. I want to take a break now, but let me leave you with this. Tell us about your involvement with the Emily Humanitarian Foundation that supports surgery for children in underdeveloped countries. All right?
Okay.
Wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week where I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.
We are back with Kirk, Cambridge Del Pesche. Kirk, your involvement. Tell us about your involvement with the Emily Humanitarian Foundation.
The Emily Humanitarian Foundation was started by David Liu, who is the husband. He's a doctor, a heart surgeon. His wife is Moana Siriana Liu, who is a Martinican-born superstar in Paris. They just had a son. And he started this foundation to give back to third world countries. And so I met them when I was doing The Wiz in 2009, I believe. I met him through his wife. And I introduced him to Tashina Arnold and a bunch of other celebrities that was working on the show. And we hang out, and we just literally, at the end of it, I remember him saying to me one day, he said, I would like you to be a part of my organization. And I said, why? He said, because you bring something dynamic. You would bring something dynamic to it. And I thought it was an honor. So I've been around them for a good 5 or 6 years now. And they do great things in third world countries, and they're now expanding into other things. So there's now something called the Heart Fund, and that's to pay for heart surgeries. The Emily Foundation would do things like help children correct cleft lips and things. So David would fly over and he would do these surgeries for free.
How does one get in touch with them?
The organization has a website, so you can go to the emilyhumanitarian.org, and there's the Heart Fund. If you Google any of them, they'll come up.
Emily Humanitarian Foundation.
If you Google it, it'll come up, and you contact them and say, this is whoever I am, and I know children here, there, and they would put it into the roster and see what they could do. So it's a great thing.
So I know you mentioned your love for children. You got involved. Was that part of why you got involved?
A few years ago, when I was a little bit younger, I started volunteering. I had lost a lot of friends to HIV, predominantly women, female friends of mine, and a few male friends. And I started volunteering at the hospital in the pediatric AIDS department, and I got really close to the little child. He was maybe 3. But really smart for his age. And I think because his lifespan was going to be so short, his maturity just blossomed. And I remember one evening I left, put him to bed, and the next afternoon when I came back, he was gone. He was dead. And then I said, I'm never working with children again. I'm never getting close to a child again. And then as time progressed, I started being around my nephew, and my cousin has 2 twins, and whom I'm legally a third parent to. And I started being around them, and I started realizing, oh my God, I love children. So when I was asked to be a part of the organization, I quickly jumped at it. Because, too, my mother loved children. My mother did everything she could to help, especially poor children. So for me, it's a legacy that I am, by design, I'm supposed to do.
You mentioned your mom just now, and I just have a weakness and a closeness to mothers. When you think about your mother, what comes to mind?
I think of just joy. My mother made me very happy, and she was my best friend. We were really close. She never treated me as a child. She always treated me as a young man. That's what she would always call me. And one of the blessings that I was able to do after my mother died, when my mother died, I was 14. And I was told that my mother's ashes were buried to keep us from hurting anymore or crying. Later on, I found out that my mother's ashes was told to the funeral director that they were to take the ashes and throw them in the gutter, not bury them, by my mother's family. And when I was about 21, my sister Kimala and I went I was walking along the street one night, and I almost broke my ankle on a street that I've walked a million times. So I held onto this wall, and the gentleman across on the other side of the wall, his name is Sonny. Sonny said, "Kirk, is that you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, what happened?" I said, "Boy, I almost broke my ankle." So the lady sitting there, she said, "Kirk." She said, "What's your mother's last name?" I said, "Your mother's name?" I said, "Her name is Kathleen Cambridge." She says, "Come up to the funeral home tomorrow." So I went home quickly, and I called my younger sister Kimala, and I said, "Hey, we need to go up to the funeral home tomorrow. She said, okay. So she comes and she meets me. We go up. And this is just about the time I'm about to move to the States, literally days before. My sister and I go to the funeral home, and the guy says, come into my office. And he tells us the story. And he presents us with my mother's urn. I cannot tell you, it was six or 7 years later. I cannot tell you the relief that I felt. Disappointment in my mother's family. Choice to say what they said. And, you know. But my mother used to say to me when I was little, you will be the one to put me in a house. Always, my entire life. And my grandmother reminded me the day I brought the urn home, because I didn't tell her what was going on. I brought the urn. She said, what is that? I said, it's my mother's ashes. She says, She said, Kathleen, not easy. I said, what happened? She said, do you remember your mother telling you, growing up when you're little, that you will be the one to put her in a house? I said, possibly. And she said, look now, 6 years after she died, you're going to put her to rest. And to me, it just speaks to the volume and the magnitude of the persona that was Kathleen Cambridge.
What did you learn about yourself during that experience?
I learned that I am more forgiving than I thought I would ever have been. Mm-hmm. And I learned that the 14-year-old boy who was called and told that his mother is dead at 10:30 at night, who had to wake up the next morning and say it to his sisters who were younger, could do, and to be the strength to be their rock because they fell apart. And I couldn't let them see me cry, so I never cried. Mm. And that day when we buried my mother, my younger sister, Carlene, my sister Kimmy, and I stood there in the church and held each other's hands the entire time. And we got to the cemetery, and in our family plot, they dug a hole. And they were going to put the urn into the hole just like that. And I said no. And I opened the urn and poured the ashes in. And I started crying for the first time in my entire life. And I realized then and there that my sisters weren't as weak or as vulnerable as I thought they were. They'd grown into these amazing women. And these amazing, smart, strong women. And I realized that my mother's ability to endure was passed down to all of us. And I realized that I was literally standing among two of the most amazing women that I've now grown to respect. And my younger sisters are Goliaths in my eyes. They have accomplished a lot. We're all highly educated, and they never let anything hold them back. And I think that is just an amazing, that part of my mother lives in us.
When you said mother, I remember the play Fela, which you were, the makeup artist on, and there was this mother figure. And so I want to ask you this. What did what did touring with Fela bring out in you?
Working on Fela was not like working on any other show I've ever toured with. I've toured with other shows before. Mm-hmm. Fela was a deeply, deeply spiritual and ancestral show. It made you think, it made you feel. There is a part of the show that's called Orishas, and that's where Fela goes into the spirit world to speak to his mother. And he's dressed in white, and he has to climb this ladder up to heaven. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, there are moments through the show where you can feel the spiritual connection and the ancestry coming through, and these spirits of old in the audience. Through the theater, you can feel it. But in Orishas is where it is most powerful. It's almost to the end of the show. And he's in white, and this is where purity is. And the Orishas are spirits of your ancestors. And these people they bring it. So the spirits literally manifest themselves on stage in these people without anyone really knowing it. And they take over. So it was every city was different. Some cities it was stronger than others. Some cities, I remember one city, one girl in Atlanta where it was most potent. She came off stage and started convulsing on the floor. And they thought, and our, you know, our stage hands were out. I was like one of the few black people on the crew. And because the cast is predominantly black, but the crew is predominantly white and white pretty much. And I was like the only crew person that was truly black. But no one treated me any differently. It was just great. But I being from the Caribbean and knowing of Shango and knowing of Soca Baptist, I knew what it was. And, you know, a few of us, there were a lot of West Indians on the show. A lot of us. And we all knew what it was. So we just would step back and let it run its course. And they were the one to call the paramedics. It would be like, it'll be over in like 5 minutes.
Let me go into the chat room. Karen Joseph Nero said, OMG, Mike Kirk. It is so good to hear your voice. Congrats, sweetie. So proud. Glad that you have an opportunity to express KCD. Doing happy dance and screams. Now go and corn their pork. Wow. It is nice to be Caribbean. At least you can pick up some of it.
Oh, gosh. Hey, wonderful. Karen is a mess. I love it.
What advice can you give to someone just starting out on their own in this industry?
Be polite. Be humble. Be waterproof, because there will be a lot of times when they will throw it at you and you just have to shake it off. Don't take anything personally. It is never about you. You know, just, yeah, be strong, because there will be a lot of no's.
What is it like doing makeup on a celebrity?
You know, what's funny is that I have all of my celebrity clients are people that I've always wanted to work for or wanted to work for but didn't know it. And then when I start work, and they're all amazing people. Like, I started working for Eartha Kitt in 2008, and I had quit my job at Mac, and I was home lying in my chair with my dog. And I was like, I wasn't even thinking about what I was going to do next. I was like, I need a break. My phone rang. It was Monday morning. And they said, I have a celebrity client and she needs a makeup artist and you were referred to us. Don't bring a resume. I was like, okay. Tuesday morning I walked in, and I walked in the room and the chair was turned around, and then the person swung around and it was Eartha Kitt, and she looked at me up and down. You'll do. And I left, and they said, come tomorrow. The next day I went in. I started doing her makeup, and her regular makeup artist couldn't do the production we were doing, and they were hiring someone. And so I went in, I was doing her makeup. She started like giving me pointers on how to do her makeup and stuff. And I gave her like 5 minutes worth of talk time, because I just, you know, I'm good at what I do. Mm-hmm. And she kept talking, you know, to my eyelash like this and to my. And then I gave her 5 minutes, and 5 minutes later the West Indian came up. I said, listen, Miss Kitt, I mean no disrespect. I said, but I'm very good at what I do, and I'm not a short Mexican.
You're not a what?
A short Mexican. And she looked at me, and I swear to God, she was going to fire me right there. She says, you know, I fired people for less. I said, then you would have to go ahead and fire me. I was terrified, but I was just, and she said to me, she said, I will keep you. She says, where are you from? I said, I'm from the beautiful island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She says, oh, island men, I love them. She's like, I'll keep you around. And she literally became my best friend. Hilarious. Truly the embodiment of what it means to be a lady. It was her. And then I've worked for Smokey Robinson, his wife. And when I tell you, amazing people. No airs, just regular people that just happen to be really great at their craft. And Smokey is gracious. He comes and he gives me a big hug every time he see me. And he said, how you doing? And we talk about the Caribbean and we watch boxing and he'll be watching wrestling. He likes wrestling. So we watch wrestling or, you know, a boxing match. And, you know, he really gets into that. And he's just really a nice man. And I found that I worked on Broadway, I worked for LaShawne's, whose husband died in 9/11. And again, a beautiful spirit, a beautiful soul, simple people. They are just masters of their craft and just genuine. Like I've been really fortunate to meet genuine, true people. Tashina Arnold, same thing. Always laughing. Orlando Jones is always a comedian. In front of the camera, behind the camera, under the camera, over the camera. You know, the camera in his belly. He's just naturally, truly a comedian.
What do you enjoy most about your job and career?
I love that I get to meet amazing people who I look up to.
And what turns you off in your field?
Assholes. There are many of them, and they're not the people. They are the people that work for them.
And then let me ask you this. What do you love most about Cork, Cambridge, Pesche?
I love that I never see things the same way twice.
And what drives you nuts about being that person, about being who you are?
That I'm so meticulous at everything I do.
What is your pet peeve, if any, about the makeup industry?
People that do bad makeup and pass it off as fabulousness.
Who would you like to work for in the future?
I would love to work for Grace Jones. I would love to work for Tina Turner. I would love to work for... I like the old Anita Baker. I love the old singers, Toni Braxton. I love them because they are truly that was the last era of great music. Now it's just blah, 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 rubbish. And you know, it's just like these people become celebrities. And no knocking them. You have to make your kappas. Make your kappas, so I need to make your kappas. But, you know, music to me is the Aretha Franklins, the Diana Rosses, the Anita Bakers, the Toni Braxtons. Those people are truly what real music was. Now it's just like remakes of everything. Nothing's genuine anymore. Everything is a contrived knockoff of something else.
Who are your makeup artists? Who are your makeup icons?
I really don't have any. Like, I don't, you know, like people say, like, I really do love, there's a guy, Gordon Espinay, who is, I think he's a creative director of makeup artistry at MAC. And he's Trinidad, and I think that he's such a brilliant makeup artist. And then, you know, my love is Nadine Luke of Jamaica. Nadine Luke. She also was a director at MAC for makeup artistry. Talent was, I used to just marvel.
We're gonna do this question I'm gonna ask you at the end.
Okay.
Right? And I want you to think about it. And because I know I'll be killed if I don't ask you this question, and that is some makeup tips.
Okay.
For, you know, but let me ask you these other questions. When are you most happy, Kirk?
I am most happy when I see joy in my friends and family's faces.
Where do you think homophobia stems from?
It stems from ignorance. It stems from fear that you would actually be able to get along with somebody who's different from you.
This is, I'm just going to ask this.
Ask.
As you have both energies of female and male, how have your experiences been with dating?
Dating for me is, I'm very particular. So I don't just date. I date people who are smart and people who are successful. people who genuinely have a love of family. Yeah, so dating for me is, I'm my own worst enemy in dating. So I always, and the fact that I have this ability to, because when I worked for Mac would send us to all these trainings as managers to get to know people. So we'd train with people from the FBI, CIA, whatever, to detect personality traits. And so that way you're able to best give customer service geared to those people. So that, you know, sometimes you might come and someone have an attitude and you take it personally, oh, she don't like me. Person has nothing to do with you. The person has their own thing going on. So now you have to go, oh, I think this is a good shade for you or whatever, and try to, like, you know, create a balance so that now they trust you. And so I started putting that into my own life scenarios. And so now within the first 20 to 30 seconds of meeting someone, I figure them out. But then I would give them the opportunity to prove me wrong. And so within the space of a week, I'd figure out that they're really, you know, I can't be out with you. So I would walk out on dates. I'd get up and walk. And they'd be like, where are you going? I said, this date is officially over. And bounce.
Just out of curiosity, Kirk, knowing what you know now in the industry, if you had to do it over, what would you change, if anything?
Nothing.
Amen. What are your real concerns, your deepest concerns and fears about the future of lesbians and gays in the Caribbean?
I think that the fact that you really you have human rights, but you don't have sexual rights, that's the problem. The fact that now governments are talking about enacting those laws, those barbaric laws that are on the books that still say, that are in most of the Caribbean countries, actually all of them, that say if you're suspected of being gay or homosexual or whatever, they can lock you up and imprison you, come into your home. They can come into your home if they suspect you're gay and arrest you for being homosexual, and arrest you with no questions, nothing. And I think those things are barbaric. I think from where we came from to where we are, we were already judged. We went through slavery, we went through this, you went through classism, you went through socialism, you went through all of these things. You're going to add this one to your roster? You grow and you develop and you choose and you say, they are who they are, and I am who I am, and I'm going to accept it for what it is. Nobody is saying you need to have me in your bed. I have no interest, because maybe you don't have 3,000 thread count sheets, and I'm allergic to anything less. But, you know, it's just like, and people, like, who is, like, I don't consider myself, and everyone who knows me and who's listening and who knows me would say I'm not like I'm not like any other gay person anyone ever meets. I do not agree with everything. I don't agree with everything that the gay populace says. And there's this thing that they say, oh, you know, it's like being black. No, it ain't like being black. It ain't. It ain't like being from the Caribbean. It ain't. It's different. It is, you know, I don't agree with a lot. I agree with some of it, and I don't agree with a lot with some of it. And what I voice my opinion either way. Like the marriage thing, that could swing either way for me. I don't really care one way or the other. The fact that you want to be on your partner's insurance, all good. But you know, you should go out and get your own mother so-and-so insurance for real. Like really. Why you want to be my insurance? No. I walk in with me, you go walk up my insurance. Like those kind of things. I feel that you should have the right to adopt children. You should, you know, if I'm with you for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and you die, I should have the right to come to your funeral and to make decisions for you, not your family. Your family don't know who you are. They didn't want you. They didn't push you aside, and now you want to come in and make decisions? No, it's ridiculous.
What are you most thankful for?
I am thankful for the people that I have in my life that I have surrounded myself with, who love me for me. All of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent, they do not waver. And the people who are honest with me say, Kirk, sometimes you're a bitch. And I said, you know, I know, but I don't care. And they're like, I still love you.
What is one thing about you most people do not know that might surprise them?
That I am sometimes shy.
Sometimes shy.
I am, mostly in my quiet, and I love my quiet moments. I love solitude. I love being around people, but I truly cherish my quiet moments when I'm by myself.
Any aspirations for your own makeup line?
No.
What do you miss most about being 16?
Nothing.
If you had a chance to go back in time, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Prepare yourself. You are going to be bigger than you ever thought.
What drives you? What makes you wake up every day and do what you do?
The fact that there is a universal being bigger than me that pushes me every single day and opens opportunities that I never thought possible.
This is usually the last question on the show, which I ask all my guests. But please remember we have to answer that other question. What makes you laugh out loud?
My sister Gwen.
Is Gwen watching tonight?
I think she is, because I would laugh and I'd throw my head back, which is a thing my mother used to do. And she'd say, yeah, look at you. You're laughing and throwing back in and pushing your tongue out like a scatter.
In the chat room, Karen G said, ha ha ha, love it. You did not pander and fall apart, and she admired you. That Arthur is something. So, Kirk, here's the question. Some makeup tips for our sisters.
So, I always find a color when you're matching your foundation or your powder. Always put it on your jawline and take a mirror and go outside in natural light, because you can really see what it looks like for real. When you're in a makeup store, the light in there is soft light, so it looks different. It will look great in the store. Makeup is the lighting in the stores are designed. In most makeup stores are designed to make it look amazing in the store. But when you step outside, you're like, oh, shit, no. With lipsticks, if you don't want to try them on your lips, always try them on this part of your hand, like where the dark part of your skin meets the lighter part of your palm, because it's the only place on your body that replicates the color of your lip. So you can really tell what it would look like on your mouth. Right here. Wow. It's a perfect place. So if you don't want to try it on your mouth, try it there, and it'll give you a good idea. Stop putting black liner on your eyebrows. It is not attractive. You look like a jab. Stop. What you are to do, however, is to find yourself a brown pencil, some preferably waterproof, and a brush, and an angled brush. Again, kind of heated now. So, and an angled brush, and that brush you can draw your eyebrows in, and then you can shape them to your own eyebrow. Best thing to do. Black eyeliner. I find that black women shouldn't wear black eyeliner. I think there's navy blue, there's dark green, there's a bunch of colors that you can wear that really work with us, because nobody could wear color like we. I mean, for real. And if the ugly white lipstick colors we were in, stop. Find a sensible color. You hear me? Watch now. And see that bright pink blush and thing and that red blush all this way? Stop. When we blush as people of color, our skin blushes burnt orange, not red. So our skin turns that yellowy, orangey tone. And those tones work best on us. So stop with the red blush, you look crazy. And then with a red lipstick, I know that we're West Indian and we'll gravitate to the brightest color. Stop.
No good?
No, they need to stop. Find a sensible color, because you cannot be blue, black, and wearing a bright red lipstick. You look crazy, woman. I see y'all all the time. Terrible. Just play around with a couple of colors, or do a lip gloss version, because lip glosses and lip stains tend to be lighter in color, in pigmentation, so they don't come off as bright. And one more thing I want to talk about. You see them busted weave all this having on the head, and them thing all this called weave, the things that look like they're about to jump off and attack people, and the things that be outgrown, and they need to stop. It had too much good hair just in America, for all to be going and buy them ugly wig with lace front. Lace front supposed to be cut back all the way so, and we want to see the lace. All you hear what saying? I know all you hear what saying. And if you're seeing watching this, take the video tomorrow and send it to the friend and them you have who does wear busted weaves. It's a tragedy. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much.
Let me go to the chat room. No C said shy. Laugh out loud. Michelle Morgan, them things that's corn over pork. Karen Joseph Nero, you shy? Interesting. No C said, love navy blue.
That's my girl.
But Kirk, this has indeed been. It's been a great evening, and thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences. Thank you for being so candid. Thank you for giving us glimpses into your life. I think that was important, especially for young people that are listening tonight, and especially for young people who might be having problems with their sexuality, to see somebody like you accomplished and speak so frankly about who you are. And, I think that was courageous. I guess for you, it is probably no courage, but but again, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was really great. It's really nice to be able to sit in a forum like this and just give information.
Anything surprised you about CWS?
I'm surprised at how relaxed it is. I'm surprised at the atmosphere that you've created. Like as a West Indian, sometimes you kind of walk into a situation with another West Indian, you're just like, okay. And I really did psych myself into say, I'm just going to go with the flow. And it's brilliant because when I came in, we started talking and you made it very easy and you made the atmosphere really amazing to do what we just did. And I applaud that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And this is Selwyn saying, fear not what fear whispers to you. Fear your obedience to it. Good night.
It was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week when I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.